The Bharatiya Janata Party-led government at the centre today abolished Article 370, which gives a special status to the state of Jammu and Kashmir. The government also moved a separate bill bifurcating the state into two separate union territories of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh.
महोदय, मैं संकल्प प्रस्तुत करता हूं कि ये सदन अनुच्छेद 370(3) के अंतर्गत भारत के राष्ट्रपति द्वारा जारी की जाने वाली निम्नलिखित अधिसूचनाओं की सिफारिश करता है। संविधान के अनुच्छेद 370(3) के अंतर्गत भारत के संविधान के अनुच्छेद 370 के खंड 1 के साथ पठित अनुच्छेद 370 के खंड 3 द्वारा प्रदत्त शक्तियों का प्रयोग करते हुए राष्ट्रपति संसद की सिफारिश पर यह घोषणा करते हैं कि यह दिनांक जिस दिन भारत के राष्ट्रपति द्वारा इस घोषणा पर हस्ताक्षर किए जाएंगे और इसे सरकारी गैजेट में प्रकाशित किया जाएगा, उस दिन से अनुच्छेद 370 के सभी खंड लागू नहीं होंगे।
We are here joined by the former Deputy Chief of Army Staff and Kashmir Corps Commander, retired Lieutenant General Subrata Saha. Thank you so much, sir, for speaking to Outlook India. The former Finance Minister of the country, Arun Jaitley, in the morning said that a historical mistake had been undone today. Your first reaction to the centre's decision to abolish Article 370?
Since you started by quoting Mr. Arun Jaitley, I think he also said a momentous decision has been made. And I think the first reaction is it is indeed momentous and something which required to be done for quite some time. That has happened. As you are aware, Article 370 was, and for that matter as a follow-on thereof, Article 35 alpha, they were all temporary arrangements. So that needed to be resolved. And I think out of this decision, as we look at it, and of whatever has been put out now, there are three things that come out. First is the scrapping of Article 370, and as a consequence thereof, Article 35 alpha. And the next thing is the formation of two union territories by reorganizing the erstwhile J&K into Ladakh Union Territory with no legislature and Jammu and Kashmir with legislature. So all of it has obviously far-reaching implications, corrections, which we'll have to see how it all unfolds as we go into the future. But from a very basic point of view, I think it provides for the people of Jammu and Kashmir the right to prosper like anywhere else in the country, because I think the most important thing is it opens up the freedom for people from anywhere else to go and, shall we say, invest over there, to go and set up business over there, to set up industries over there, to open academic institutes. All of it was lacking so far over these last 70 years. So I think that is going to be the major and fundamental change. And following from that, of course, the immediate aftermath is going to be crucial on how well it is managed from that security perspective, because all kinds of vested interests are going to jump into the fray now to disrupt the situation, as it were. So once that is managed well, as I look at it going into the future, this should provide a more secure environment to the people, and once that happens, obviously life becomes easier, because for an average Kashmiri, what is he looking for? He's looking for just the right environment for his livelihood, for himself for him or her to prosper, for their children to grow. So all of it, I think, is what we should be expecting, and as I maintain, yes, it must be managed exceedingly well as we go into the future.
Since you mentioned the security, let me quickly jump onto that only. There has been a massive security build-up in the valley over the past couple of weeks. About 38,000 troops had been moved to the valley. Do you think this could actually, and this move actually triggered a lot of rumors also in the valley, do you think the centre has actually thought through this decision or just hurried into it? Or do you think this was the right time? It had to happen, so let this be the time?
You see, this is one decision, I think, which has been thought through for over 65 years now. So this is not as if it is something which is abrupt. This very much was there in the manifesto of the BJP.
Absolutely.
So all of it is very much a part of the scheme of things. Yeah, now the point is additional troops, basically additional Central Armed Police Forces have been moved in from different parts of the country. This is to make sure that situation does not go out of hand, because when it comes to Kashmir, when it comes to Jammu and Kashmir in particular, it is not, I mean, there are so many forces at play over there, and there is the Pakistan's, constant endeavor to keep that place boiling. So just as well that they have positioned the people earlier and then announced the decision. And there has been nothing, you keep hearing from various commentators, okay, people were not told in advance.
Yes.
I mean, the fact is, a decision is being put in place when the parliament is in session. The entire parliament has been communicated this within hours of the cabinet decision. So I think it's a matter of time when we see the whole thing unfold and go.
This takes me to my next question, that two former chief ministers, Omar Abdullah and Mehbooba Mufti, they have been under house arrest since last night. Do you think at least the local leadership could have been taken on board, at least some sort of confidence could have been instilled there to just make sure that things do not spiral out of control?
You see, this is a matter of judgment.
Absolutely.
So effectively, you're not questioning the decision, but probably you're questioning the method.
Yeah.
Right. So on that note, this is a matter of judgment, because in case it was communicated earlier, how would they have reacted? Could it have been a spoiler for some immediate gains? Could it have meant to be a spoiler in the larger context? So I suppose these are the factors basis which a decision has been taken, and how it is going to play out, I suppose time will tell.
Okay. Before we discuss the Pakistan angle, because the Pakistan Foreign Affairs Ministry has already reacted, I just want to understand from you what the centre and the Indian Army can do from here onwards to make sure that people do not really take to streets. They do not really. I mean, just there is a murmur that this could actually take us back to the 90s of mass violence, mass protests, and thereby leading to challenges for the security forces as well. Your take on that?
I think the first and foremost is, a very good information campaign is required to tell first and foremost the people of J&K how this benefits them. It is not as if they don't know, but it's just a question of reminding them on the benefits of this, and also, to safeguard them from all kinds of rumor mongering, as you yourself allude to, and all kinds of propaganda machinery that is going to be, it's already active from across the border, from forces within, and so on. And at the same time, I think at the diplomatic level also, it is important that the message is sent out to the world at large, putting out why this decision, the benefits of this. Again, it is not as if people don't know, but I suppose it requires a fresh sort of impetus putting out the benefits of the decision which has been taken. And in terms of timing also, if you see, I think it's pretty well timed, because the parliament is in session, so it is not as if it has been done by a different means. The second thing is, at this point in time, very recently, we've heard all the attention that Kashmir got because of Prime Minister Imran Khan's meeting with the President of the United States and so on. And it's a well-known fact that Pakistan is quite occupied with Afghanistan. So I think timing-wise it's pretty nice. And I think about a month plus for now, we have the UN General Assembly. So I think it's a good time to start informing the world, and probably take it to a certain level by the time we are at the where India is at the UN General Assembly.
My last question, the Pakistan Foreign Affairs Ministry has said that it's going to explore all possible options, and here I'm quoting them, it's going to explore all possible options to counter what they're calling it as an illegal step. What could India expect of Pakistan from here onwards? Because A, they call it an international dispute, they continue to claim so, and secondly, there has been a continued violence on the border as well as,
You see, I mean, how can Pakistan call it illegal?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
did Pakistan ever respect the legality of Pakistan occupied Kashmir? Did they maintain some kind of special status? Did they maintain all these provisions of Article 35 Alpha or their equivalent in Pakistan occupied Kashmir?
No.
When they split Pakistan occupied Kashmir with Gilgit-Baltistan, did they respect any of this? So, I mean, they can perceive what they feel, they can put out what they wish. I think the government of India is very well prepared to take on any such challenge that comes from Pakistan.
So, thank you so much, sir, for speaking to Outlook India. It was wonderful speaking to you.